All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, my 15 minutes ran out, so I'm going to start again. Let's move through it quickly. So it says, what are common transfers? So transfers are when matter energy moves, but it doesn't change forms. So we're looking here, and really these depend on the terminology that's being used. So we see in this model, it says consumption, as we're looking at this food chain from producer to a primary consumer to a secondary consumer. It says consumption. So this I'm imagining, let's say you are a primary consumer when you eat like a carrot, all right? So in that case, yes, carrot does move directly into you, and in the consumption part, it doesn't change forms. So consumption, okay, would be considered a transfer. However, the digestion part is not a transfer, it's a transformation because energy changes form. So I have a little bit of I don't 100% agree with this and what the book says about it, but we'll just let it be. If it says consumption, yes. If you're putting something into your body, yes, it does go in there. Within your body, it does change form, so. The other thing we might look at is death. So if an organism dies, and this arrow only says death, okay, in the initial death, the matter is not initially transformed. It will be transformed, though, later when it breaks down. Transformation. So this is where energy or matter is changing form. So we see detritus, those dead things will eventually decompose and become nutrients. So all of this really is showing that the detritus, so the dead matter, is being consumed by decomposers and then transformed into available nutrients. Okay? So that's an excellent example. Something else you might think about is that the light being moved into the producer does not continue to be light energy. It's transformed into a chemical energy within the plant. So that would also be a transformation. So now we're going to pick just one thing and think about how that might have inputs, outputs, and specific other types of flows like transfers and transformations. So let's pick, let's, now I just, sure, let's just pick our producer just to make things simple. Okay? So inputs into our producer. So let's imagine a producer, we're talking a plant, right? So a plant that's living in a forest ecosystem. So our light is moving into our producer. Okay? Our producer also will need stored nutrients, so it will need some nutrients from the soil. Okay, that's typically where plants uptake their nutrients. So let's look at some outputs. So for outputs, we're thinking about the arrows moving away from our producer. So we could see that the producer could die, or part of it could die if we're talking about a large tree. Okay, it could lose a branch, and that then matter would be lost to detritus. Additionally, all organisms go through respiration, so that means the plant utilizes the energy that it's making for itself through the process of photosynthesis. And it's not 100% efficient, so none of those processes are 100% efficient. So some energy will be transformed in an unusable form, which would be heat, through the process of respiration. We could also see that part of this plant might be consumed by another organism. So let's say a caterpillar, okay, starts eating the leaves of this plant. So yes, it would lose some matter and some stored chemical energy that way as well. Okay, so where is matter and energy stored? Well, we know it's stored within the producer. If this is a producer, it must be stored in some type of photosynthetic product, like we might say some type of carbohydrate or cellulose. Okay. Then if it says transfers, where are we looking at transfers within this system? So things moving but not necessarily changing forms. So that if we're just looking at the producer, well, maybe a transfer could be part of that matter that's lost and being consumed by a primary consumer, or death. So that loss of matter that way would be a transfer. As far as transformations, I would say transformations include the light energy moving into the plant because it'll be transformed into chemical energy. And in the process of accessing that chemical energy within the plant or those products of photosynthesis, like the carbohydrates saved within the plant, part of the energy will be transformed into an unusable form or heat. So that happens in cellular respiration, which remember occurs in all organisms. So how would we classify the Earth system as a whole? Thinking about inputs and outputs. I want you to first answer these on your own and then come back and listen. Thank you. So pause now. All right, welcome back. So inputs. If we're looking at the Earth system, generally we think of our main input as solar radiation. Okay, so solar radiation, energy from the sun. Outputs. Well, I mean, this is a picture of the Earth taken from space, which means that Earth must be reflecting some of that sunlight, some of that light. So we do reflect some of that light back out into space. Some very creative people might say that we put out some waste, so in the form of satellites and rockets. And we do put some matter out into space, but that's uncommon and has only happened within the last 50 so years. So generally, we would say that our Earth system then, if it's only moving energy and not matter, so almost all the matter stays within the system. The only exception would be, if we send a satellite out or there's some space trash then that we sent out in probes that we sent across the solar system and then never got back. Okay, that does happen actually. But it's very infrequent, so we consider our Earth system as a whole to be closed. So it takes in energy, but it cycles all the matter. So what would be an isolated system? So please think about it for a minute before we move on. Isolated means that it's all by itself. Right? There's no transfer of energy. There's no transfer of matter. So some people think that this might include the entire universe. Other people disagree because they say that we don't know what's beyond our universe and maybe there are other universes out there and that maybe it's not true that this is an isolated system. But that's the one thing that some people fall back on. Now, I absolutely love this image, and I asked the first hour class or the section 1 class where this image came from. This is an actual image, so it is from the Hubble Space Telescope. So Hubble's been up in space for a really long time, taking some amazing photographs in a bunch of different wavelengths of, well, our universe. So if we look out here, what we're actually looking at, it's not just stars. We see that all of these little things, right, these lighter objects, most of them are their own galaxy. Like we live in our solar system within one of the arms of the Milky Way galaxy. These are entire galaxies. So just giving you an idea of how vast the universe is. And we really have no idea what would be beyond our universe. In fact, we're really rather clueless about most of the things within our universe. So we still think that perhaps it could be an isolated system, but that is just a prediction. Right? Have a good day.